Now we review Star Trek Section 31. It's a movie. I wish it wasn't. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I saw Star Trek Section 31, it must have been a week ago now, and I honestly forgot I'd seen it because it was so not memorable. And then here I am, I'm going, should I watch it again? Try to see more of it to review it for you? And no, I'm not. It is a very recycled plot, super weapon that can destroy the universe. We've got to go stop it. So let's assemble a Guardians of the Galaxy team to go Men in Black this business. And, it's a diverse group of stupid. It's a very pretty movie, but it doesn't feel like Star Trek because there's no... Look, Star Trek is very grounded in reality. And you say, no, it's ridiculous science fiction. It's ridiculous science fiction for a reason, It's grounded in reality in that it is highly based on the Age of Sail. And being highly based on the Age of Sail, you don't have like fighter ships like Star Wars. Star Wars has small fighters because it's basically based on the things that happened in World War I and II. If you look at the Star Wars fighters, they're basically bi-wings. Your X-Wing, take a bi-wing, turn it around. That's that. Your TIE fighter, take a bi-wing, turn it on its side, and expand it. That's that. That's what that is. So these things have this very World War II, World War I feel. Star Trek is supposed to have a very Age of Sail feel where we have rations and runabouts and smaller vessels that do different jobs. And it's very much based on the ships itself. Well, Section 31 takes all that and throws it out the window and has a more Star Wars feel with a Men in Black level of comedy. And it's like one of the things that happens is you have a character that is microscopic and they're inside a golem. A large, looks like a human sort of a thing. And he talks about how you can have, like so many thousand young. Well, if you can, then how is it you haven't conquered the galaxy? Because you're intelligent enough that you could fly up my nose and screw up my brain. And, you could destroy our entire society before we even known it. So why would a species like that have so many offspring? This was sort of a joke in Men in Black because, like the roaches or the bugs or whatever they are, they're bugs. They have a lot of offspring. But the thing about intelligent species is they can't have a lot of offspring. It's one of those things that as you become a more complicated critter, the harder it is for you to have offspring because those offspring can no longer be educated through DNA. So if everyone is having, 1,000 or 20,000 children, educating them becomes difficult. Feeding them becomes difficult. The more complicated a life form you are, the longer it normally takes for your child to grow up. So it's kind of against biology. And you could turn around and say, well, yes, but it's alien biology. Okay, yes, but it's funny biology, not smart biology. It's not like, okay, he's a microbe. What would a super intelligent microbe be? It's what would be funny if he were a microbe. And that's kind of the problem with this movie. There's some magic MacGuffin that can destroy the universe. And this happens so often in Star Trek now that it's like, how is it none of these magic MacGuffins have never destroyed the universe? Why are there all these super weapons around that no one's ever used? I mean, look, America has a super weapon. It's called a nuclear bomb. And we used it. All right? In order for you to know this thing's going to work, you got to test it somehow. So that would have proven something. And, they're also taking sort of a multiverse of madness look because they've pulled people from a different dimension, I think it is. And there's a lot of this, like, here's a reveal of this. this is stupid, it doesn't change the story much, but it is a reveal. And you're like, okay, you revealed something. I don't care because you didn't invest me properly in that character, and I'd rather they die. I mean, this film is like somebody dropped acid, okay, and I mean a lot of acid, and probably some weed and a little cocaine, and just watched a bunch of really great science fiction films, and then vomited them up into a film script and slapped Star Trek on it. And that's kind of the problem. I mean, look, I understand Star Trek has gone downhill. Its opus was Next Generation. People argue that it was the original series. I feel it's Next Generation. And Voyager just wasn't as good. Deep Space Nine just wasn't as good. But as we go further out from those things, we continue to see more and more of the spirit of Star Trek, the feeling of Star Trek. I mean, Star Trek, the original series, was history lessons, questions in morality. What is right? What is wrong? When do the rules stand above right and wrong? When is the rule more important than doing what's right? Star Trek The Next Generation was a lot more of the same, only it was more into the concepts of morality. It very much reflected our time. There were questions about homosexuality, racism, all these wonderful things that were pushed into our brains when we say, what if there was a species of people who were by definition androgynous, you know? What if it were reversed? Instead of, like, you know, heterosexuality being the norm, bisexuality was the norm, and nobody has a gender, and then suddenly there's somebody who's born the way they are, and they want to stay the way they are. What's the moral implications if we turn the situation on its head, and we no longer see something as normal? That is what Star Trek is. Star Trek Section 31 is a very silly movie about, you know, stopping the end of the world. And, you know, it works for The Fifth Element because The Fifth Element is a farce. It's by definition insane. So its insanity works with it. Once you start using, I mean, if this were The Fifth Element 2, and you had Lilo running around saving the universe from, the Death Planet of Evil. Yeah, okay, these images, this imagery, the colors used, the color palette, and the strange characters, they all make sense suddenly. But as a Star Trek property, you don't see a single clear Federation starship. You don't see any of the uniforms. It's so not Star Trek that the honest answer appears to be somebody found a script, said, hey, this has got a spaceship in it. Let's slap Star Trek on it to make it part of an existing IP and just ship it out to people and, you know, vomit up product, more product. It's a sign of our disgusting industrial age, and quite frankly, it's sad. It is the bankruptcy of Hollywood is what this is. This is Star Trek Section 31 is the bankruptcy of Hollywood. It does not exist easily within the Star Trek universe. It simply has characters recycled from that place that shouldn't be there anymore. So, yes, bottom of your watch list. Watch this when you're drunk. It's pretty much been forgotten, and it's been forgotten for a reason. Anyway. That's just my opinion. I'd love to hear yours. Comments below. I'm Richard.
Background, courtesy of Photographs of a Mad Richard. Link in the description.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am Fred the Facehugger, and I'd like to point out that this world isn't a nice place. But you know who's trying to make it a nice place? The owner of this channel, yes. The owner of this channel does things like pay for ocean cleanup, and have trees planted, and even feed orphans in an orphanage in Mexico. Yes, it's a real thing. I'm not kidding. I may be a face-hugging alien from a horror movie, but I'm not a liar. Anyway, when you comment, like, and subscribe, you're supporting that better world, and whereas it may not make a big difference, it may be the difference between one more tree planted, one more pound of trash out of the ocean, or one child not going hungry tonight. So, think about it. Shouldn't you comment? Shouldn't you like? Shouldn't you subscribe? I certainly would if I were you. I'm Fred.